Folks, welcome back to Nostalgianomics. Today we are going to take a look at the singles market. And no, we're not going to talk about a single illustration rare. Every video on YouTube is talking about those. Every day, it's a new illustration rare that's getting pumped to the moon by all the buyouts and manipulation scams. And I'm sure people are sick of hearing about those right now. No, I want to talk about the cards that are slowly getting forgotten about. And obviously in Sword and Shield, the alt arts and the trainer galleries, they're never going to be completely forgotten about. But what I mean is they're out of the current news cycle. People are no longer using them as clickbait all over their thumbnails with the charts going up. It's not in the titles anymore. And they're not being discussed as much, right? The same thing with Scarlet Violet era special illustration rares, especially the earlier ones. Who's talking about Scarlet Violet base sets or Paldean Evolved or Obsidian Flames special illustration rares, right? They're no longer the hot topic in the news cycle. It's all about the illustration rares. It's all about Journey Together. It's all about the new shiny thing. And so I want to take a look at what's happening with all of these cards and tell you all the positive indicators that I see. Even though we're in a bull market, I understand everything's still, highs. I understand we can see drops. But the fact that we haven't seen drops after the most recent run-up tells you a couple things. It doesn't tell you they're not overvalued. I'm not going to treat you trying to blow smoke at you, say everything's properly valued, it's not going to drop. What it tells you is a lot of these cards are reaching their maturity phases where people do see them as that valuable. There is truly that much organic demand where there is truly as many buyers as there are sellers, and people do deem them worthy at these price points. It tells you they weren't just big pump and dumps. They weren't just ran up and then everyone's going to sell at the top because they're not actually worth that much. It doesn't mean there won't be downturns in the future. What it tells you, though, is that the broad market does see these things as more valuable than they were before they had their run-ups. And that could mean good things for the future. Even if we go through times of downturns, it could mean, massive upturns again in the future as these sets get older, the boxes get more expensive, and some of these Scarlet Violet sets move out of print. So let's go ahead, jump into it. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Before we do that, I got to shout out today's video sponsor. It is Arizona TCG. They are your source for consignment on all of your PSA, BGS, and CGC slabs. Real simple, guys. You pack all of them up, you send them to Arizona TCG. They do all the work of selling them for you. They send you a big check at the end. The deal is done. They run them all through their 100% positive feedback. Over 16,000 items sold, over 3.2 thousand follower eBay store, meaning you are going to get all the eyes of eBay on them, and they're going to go for top dollar. Also, they only charge a 13.5% fee, where if you don't know, eBay already charges 13.25%, meaning they're charging you an extra 25% to do all the work for you. Give me a break, right? If it's under $100, they tack on a $5 shipping fee, which again, if you've seen the rates of shipping lately, plus shipping materials, it's about the same, if not less, than what it's going to cost you to do it yourself. So if that sounds like something you guys want to check out, make sure to check out Arizona TCG. The link will be in the description and the comment section below. All right, we're going to start out with some alt arts. Blaziken VMAX. Who's talked about Blaziken VMAX in the past, month or 2 months, right? Not many people. I'm sure there's some people out there. I'm not trying to discredit any YouTuber that has talked about this stuff. I just haven't seen it. All I see is illustration rares or Journey Together talk right now or reprint talk. What's going on with these alt arts? I mean, Blaziken VMAX, it's still going up. This is the past 6 months, guys. It is still going up. It's starting to level off, but there has been no massive downturns. And so this tells you people were not running this card up just to take profits. People actually value these things at what they're going for, especially now that Chilling Reign and all these Sword and Shield sets are out of print and we're not getting any more, and the boxes are getting more expensive and these cards are getting pulled a whole lot less because people are opening them a whole lot less, which also goes into the Moonbryon. Now, this is starting to have some crazy, ups and downs with all kind of crazy TCG player, games being had, but the fact remains, it's still selling up in the $1,600 to $1,700 range. The lowest one's listed, $1,650, $1,730. When you go to see what's selling, there's a bunch of low sales right here. Again, I don't know what's going on with all this stuff. Don't know. Are they, Korean, Japanese, this and that? But realistically, you're selling for around $1,700 to $1,800. We'll say $1,600 to $1,800. That is what a Moonbryon is still worth. Again, even though it was ran up from under $900 back in September. This tells you the fact that it's holding up, not that it won't come down. I'm not saying that if the market downturns, it won't come down. What it tells you is it wasn't just a strict pump and dump. Because if it was, everyone will be selling at these prices because they would say it's overvalued now. It's not actually worth that. No, people actually feel it's worth that. And you can see from all of the recent sales, guys, it's not something that all got bought in one day, right? There's consistent sales almost every single day on the Moonbryon. And this goes for every other alt art. Rayquaza VMAX still on the rise, right? We got the Leafeon VMAX still on the rise, starting to level out now, but doing very well. That was the Leafeon VMAX. Sylveon VMAX starting to level out, and the Glaceon VMAX is still on the rise. And so we're going to talk about some of these leveling outs here in a second. I want to show a few more, though. The Gengar VMAX and Fusion Strike starting to level out, seeing a bit of a drop. Nothing crazy, though. We've got the Espeon VMAX, starting to kind of get to the tops there, leveling out a bit. We got the Charizard V still on the rise. We've got the Umbreon VMAX. Now, this is a trainer gallery from Brilliant Stars, not an alt art, but this is what I want to draw your attention to. In January, mid-January, this hit around the $80 price point. Now, for the past 2 months, it's been trading in that high 70s to low 80s, mid 80s range. This is a huge indicator of strength. And why do I say that? A lot of people say, Alex, that means it's topping out. It's going to drop. No, this tells you that even after the card went from $30 to $80, it has been holding at that price for 2 months with active buyers and sellers operating in the market day in and day out at that price point. That tells you this is a price where people are willing to buy. They see it as that much value. It has that much organic demand. If it didn't, you would have seen this retrace a good amount already, right? Now, again, market downturns, I'm sure it's going to come down a bit. But the fact that it hasn't crashed and it's been holding that for 2 months tells you that card was undervalued and now it's more properly valued. A 2-month holding pattern can tell you things are properly valued. Sylveon VMAX, same thing. Look, it's come down a bit. It's gave a little bit back. But again, for 2 months now, it's been in the 40s and 50s, telling you, yeah, it was undervalued back under $20, right? If not, it would be closer back to $20 after the run up and everyone dumped all of them because they said, oh, this is all overvalued now. But they didn't do that. You have regular sellers that are always going to be selling, regular buyers that are always going to be buying. And in 2 months, that would have got shaken out, which it hasn't yet. We got the Machamp V still on the rise. Starmie V Trainer Gallery, still on the rise, starting to kind of level out a bit. But again, no crashes. It doubled in price, but it's not crashing. People are paying that because they understand they're not making more of this stuff. It's not getting printed anymore. It's getting opened less and less. And if you want one of these, it's unlikely there's going to be more available on the market in the future than there are right now. And so again, downturns can happen, but over the long term, I think people are starting to value these cards more properly than they were when they were kind of the flavor of the week, news stories every week type thing. Now that you're seeing these kind of prices hold up and these kind of sales volumes hold up, even though no one's talking about them every single video, I'm telling you, it's an extremely strong sign. The Garchomp, same thing, still on the rise. We've got the Giratina V. It's starting to level out, but again, guys, $330 card runs up over 100% to $700. And we're seeing a very small pullback. We are seeing consistent sales still in the high 600s. And again, it just shows that these cards are being valued at their new price points and that people do not deem them as overvalued, as you might hear a lot of people say out there. We got the Pikachu VMAX from Lost Origin. Same thing as Trainer Gallery. Over the last year, it had some runs and falls, and now runs again. And the fact that it's ran up this high, kind of had a little fall, rising again. It's starting to set that, again, like that new holding pattern in that high 50s to low 60s range where people do feel this card is valued. We got the Lugia V, same thing, still on the rise, starting to kind of, I would say top out a little bit there. But again, I do not see massive price drops coming unless, again, we descend into a bear market and things really sell off across the board. But as long as the market stays somewhat regular, I think people are valuing these cards higher than they did before. Rayquaza VMAX, we got the Trainer Gallery. Look at this. Same thing I talked about with the other Trainer Galleries. This is a 2-month holding pattern. A 2-month holding pattern at $80 a card, where over the past 2 months, it has had consistent sales every step of the way. This is not a buyout. This is not something that you see all the sales happening in one day and there were no sales volume before like we see these days with some cards. This is what this card is valued at. This is the organic demand for this card. It's an $80 plus card. Here, getting into Crown Zenith. Crown Zenith, massive run up this year, right? The Giratina ran from $95 to over $200. Look, it's holding. It is holding there for months now. Holding in the $200 range. People deem this card that valuable. Crown Zenith, the Sea and Sky boxes are drying up now. It's about to go out of officially like out of rotation. And, the packs are getting more expensive, meaning there's going to be less and less pull as time goes on. These cards are going to hold more value. Arceus V-Star, same thing, getting in that holding pattern. The Mewtwo getting in that holding pattern, still on a bit of a rise. And what this tells us, guys, is even though these things are not the news story, the flavor of the week, they're not being talked about, they're not being pumped by the YouTube and social medias, they're still holding this value as they get into their more maturity phase of their life cycle in that, 3, 4, 5 year time frame. Just like we saw with some of the top hits from Sun and Moon and the top hits from XY. Again, not every card is going to do well over time, but usually the handful of the best cards, the most popular Pokemon, the top hits of the era, a lot of the times those are going to mature and be very good plays and very good holds over time, which I think a lot of these cards are falling into that category. Now, going into Scarlet Violet era, Gardevoir. Who's talking about Gardevoir anymore? Does anyone care about Gardevoir, or is it all, hold on, let me go back to SV base. Does anyone care about Gardevoir? Because all I see talked about are these guys. Are the, the Ralts, the Drowsy, the Curlia, the Slowpoke, all the illustrations. It's illustration madness, baby. No, I want to talk about the Gardevoir. The Gardevoir was $25 back in October, and now it's over a $50 card. And it's been in a holding pattern now, okay? It's been in a holding pattern for, again, almost over 3 months. Over 3 months, it has been a $50 card. When we go look at some of these other cards, like the Drowsy, right? You can look at the Drowsy and be like, wow, it went from, 11 to, 60. Oh my gosh, 80, whatever it was. This is way better, but now look, it's already falling. It's already having a pretty good fall. Likely is probably going to fall more like a lot of these other illustrations have. And so I want to look at some of these cards that are starting to kind of establish price points. They're no longer going through that gigantic up and down phase and all the news cycle and everyone's talking about it. They're starting to mature and people are saying, all right, these are aging. Maybe reprints come, maybe they don't. How much is it going to affect it? I don't know. But it does look like people are willing to pay more for these special illustrations as time goes on, and it's no longer a $25 card. The Iono. Does anyone care about Iono, or is it all about Magikarp? Is it all about all the other crazy illustrations in Paldea, the Tyranitar, the Raichu, the Meryl? The list goes on and on. The Iono is still doing extremely good, guys. I mean, 6 months ago, if you go back to the very tip top of 6 months, yeah, it was about the same price. It did take massive dips, but over the past 3 months, nothing but up. Nothing but up. It's had, I don't know, was that 10, 15% price rise in the past 3 months? Look at the year chart. It's not that great. I get it. But it does seem like things are starting to rise again for these special illustration rares as people kind of get over all the news and hype and they go back to these older sets and say, you know what? I do want that in my collection. I do think that card's worth that much. In fact, I think that card's worth more than that. So I want to get in now before it is worth more in the future and the market catches up. The Chi-Yu, same thing. Special illustration rare had a run before when it was in the news cycle. Everyone was talking about the price rise on it, but then it kind of came back down, right? Came back down from its big giant spike, settled in a price point, and now it's rising again, right? Now it's rising back, and yeah, I truly believe this is a $30 plus card now. You could say, Alex, it's ran up from 23, it's going to come back down. I don't think so. This looks like more organic demand for me. When you go look at the sales data, it looks like a lot more organic sales, a lot more organic sales volume, no kind of all buyouts all at once, meaning people are starting to value these special illustrations higher. Who talks about the Charizard from Obsidian Flames? Does anyone care? Is it all about the 151 Zard, the Obsidian Flames, or the Paldean Fates Zard? Who cares about this Charizard? Well, a lot of people do. It was a $40 card 6 months ago, and now it's selling for $75. It's almost doubled in price in the past 6 months. No one's even talking about it. Why not? Why aren't we talking about Obsidian Flames? Is it because it's not an illustration rare? Is it because it's not the Ninetales, right? It's not the Cleffa? Guys, these special illustration rares are rising right under our noses the same way the alt arts and the trainer galleries did when everyone stopped caring about those for a period of time. Then all of a sudden they were higher and they got back in the news cycle, which then sent them to another boom. I do think special illustration rares are going to get that secondary boom when this illustration thing wears off. And people say, you know what? The special illustration rares are actually the hits of this era. And you know what? They've all been rising. We need to start paying attention. None more important than this. This is now the top special illustration hit in Paradox Rift. It's no longer the Roaring Moon. The Altaria has been on a tear lately. $23, $25 card is now selling for over $70. Almost a 200% gain on the Altaria SIR. And guys, I understand there's a big jump here, but that jump happened back in January. It's been holding at that price since January, February time. Over a month's time, people are still paying for it. And so if you think this is all a big buyout manipulation, just go do what I do. Look at the sales data. There's very many sales happening every single day. It wasn't all one big buyout in one day. Meaning, people are going back. They're digging through these sets. They're saying, wow, it's a beautiful card. How did we miss that before? I want to get that before it's more expensive. Ooh, now it's getting more expensive. I better get in because I do think it is worth that much. And it's happening again and again. Now, the Roaring Moon, it's having trouble. The thing with the Roaring Moon, it started out very high. It started out as the most hyped card in the set. And now it's struggling to find its place on kind of where people are going to value it in the set. This happened in many sets in the past. As I talked about before, the Latios and Team Up was not the most expensive card in that set. It was other cards before that. The Miriam and SV base, that was the top card. Now it's down to the fifth hit in the set, I think, after all the illustrations and the Gardevoir. The list can go on and on. The Iono was the top card. What else? The Iron Crown was the top card in Temporal Forces. Now it's the Raging Bolt. Iron Crown's down the list a bit. So this happens all the time. It's just finding out where it actually belongs in the set and what people are going to value it. And so the Roaring Moon, it is completely flat. No growth at all, which is kind of crazy to see with the Altaria having such a huge turn. Does this mean the Roaring Moon's undervalued? Or does this mean it's finally finding what people actually value it at? I don't know. For me, I feel like it's undervalued, but that's my feelings. Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt has actually been one of the ones that's down for the past 3 months. Now, if you go back to 6 months, it's way up. It was a $60, $70 card, ran up to the, 1 to 110 area, but now it's down. Now, this is a good thing, right? Because after it came down from 110, where people finally said, this is a little overvalued, I'm going to start selling, it ran down to the low 90s. Now it's hanging out in the mid 90s to the high 90s. What that tells you is it's finding its range that people value it. This is its true value. It's probably about a $95 to $100 card. This was a little overshot right now. This was obviously very underpriced. And so this is what you want to see when things start to level out. This tells you this is no longer a buyout, a run-up, a manipulation. This tells you the market is finding out what this card is truly valued at. It's good to see. We have the Greninja. Guys, the Greninja has been pumped since the beginning of the set was released. It found its footing around the $300 area for a while. It's been steadily rising ever since. It had a pretty massive run up in the recent stage right here, but this is the definition of organic demand. This chart pattern is exactly how you want a chart pattern to look when a card is actually sought after. There's no massive upticks. Maybe you could say right here there's a little one, right here is a little one. There's no massive upticks. There's no massive buyouts. Look at this. Everyone's buying one at a time. There's a few sold every single day. There's nothing that jumps off the chart here that tells you, oh my gosh, this looks so manipulated. This tells you the card is just that hard to hit. It's that sought after. Twilight Masquerade boxes and packs are very expensive, which is helping drive this price. It's actually somewhat difficult to grade. All those things. This is what you want to look for when you see a market finding out what this card is valued. Terapagos. Terapagos is actually not performing terrible. Obviously, since release, it's down. But past 3 months, it looks like it's found its value. It's about an $80 card. $75, $80 card, somewhere around there. This is probably what the card is actually worth. It's had, it's been released for a while. It's had, 3-4 months to kind of find its footing. It's, came down, went back up, came down. It looks like it's starting to stabilize as an $80 card. So that's what tells me, if you're a collector, it starts to be a safer time to buy when you start seeing these things happen and the market finally find a range what they value it at and all the crazy ups and downs are over with. The Pikachu Surging Sparks, guys, I don't want to hit on this too much. Like obviously we can see right after release, it went to the moon. It's staying up in the moon. This is probably one of the ones I could see falling the most just because if we do get massive reprints, this is still brand new set, they can reprint this set for a couple more years now. I could see this card coming down with supply. I think it's always going to be one of the more expensive cards in the entire era, but I could see this card being more in the 300s range, like 3 to 350. I think high 4s to 500's a little over to me. So this is one of the ones that even though it's stabilized, you could say it is stabilized at a $450 to $500 price range. This is one I could see really getting hit with the reprints harder than the others. But hey, that's just my opinion. As of right now, I would say this is a very stable card. Until any more supply comes, this is a very stable range. This is what the market values it at for the supply and the price points of the cards or the packs in the box right now. So Latias, same thing. It's stabilized. About a $250 card. But like I said, same thing with the Pikachu. I think it could come down if we have a huge amount of supply introduced. But as of right now, guys, I do think it's a stable price. It is a fair price. It does seem the market says it's a $250 card. 151 Charizard. Look, this has had so much craze, so much PSA 10 grading craze. But here's the thing. Other than this massive uptick here, it's been rising ever since release. It's had times of more, I would say, parabolic rises, but it's been rising since it was released. It's Charizard. It's always going to have a level of organic demand. You could argue people are trying to manipulate it or buy it out here and there. But the fact that all the massive runs, right, have been left with very minuscule falls and then another run and very minuscule falls tells you the organic demand for this card, the fact that they keep dumping more 151 product on us as it reaches that 2-year mark, and it still doesn't drop the price of the pack very much and the price of the cards tells you this is probably just going to continue to be a very expensive card. I think this card will continue to run into the 300s. I truly believe we're probably getting to the end of the 151 restocks. They dumped a ton of booster bundles on us, a ton of Blooming Waters boxes, and that Crown Zenith Sea and Sky box was kind of the end of Crown Zenith. I think we could be getting to the end of 151, in my opinion. If that's the case and we don't get any more product introduced to us by suppliers, I think that a 151 Charizard could be a $300 to $400 plus card in the future. Blastoise, same exact way. It's still rising, but it did, kind of have its run-ups. We can still get a year chart. Had its big run-up, found its trading range in that, $75 to $80 range. Now it's run up a little bit more as things get more scarce. And so, again, seems organic to me. All these price points of these 151 cards, you can see, look, it's been in a holding pattern since October. This isn't like a few weeks, a month, guys. It's been holding in the $80 range since October. Now it's finally moving up a 10, 20%, whatever it is, or 10, 15%. Guys, this is what you look for when you want to look at a stable card to buy. Venusaur is a very stable card where you don't have to worry about kind of losing your ass on it if you're getting in right now, right? This isn't some pump and dump thing. This is what you want to look for in a stable market. Paldean Fates Charizard, the Bubble Mew kind of took all the glory from it, all the news, but no one's talking about the fact that this Charizard is still up 100+% too. The Charizard is literally up 100% in the past like 4 or 5 months, and all the attention is still on the Bubble Mew. I don't get it. This Charizard's rising. This Charizard's rising. The 151's Charizard's rising. All the Charizards are doing good, but all we want to talk about is the Bubble Mew and the illustration rares and all this. Guys, Paldean Fates Charizard still doing great. It is still seeing a very stable holding pattern up there at the $200 mark. If we look at the year chart pattern, it was very stable, had a massive run. Now it's stabilizing again. So could it come down? Sure, maybe a little bit, but I doubt it's going to come anywhere near these old levels because people are they're willing to pay at those new levels. Last but not least, I'm going to look at the Gardevoir. Gardevoir, same way. One of the other forgotten cards in Paldean Fates under the Bubble Mew. Done nothing but rise this year, guys. It was a $40 card. Now it's up over 90. It's 100% gain. 100% gain in Gardevoir. Very low talked about card, I would say, in the hobby right now. And it's having massive gains, and it's held these gains since January. We have 2 months holding at $90 a card. Tells you this is the true values of the market. Guys, this whole video, as we wrap things up, the whole point of this video is to show you all the data that this market is not being propped up by the current news cycles, by the, PokeTubers promoting cards or pumping cards, which a lot of people want to pretend it is. It's being held up by more demand than we've ever seen in this hobby, and the willingness to value these things, in my opinion here, the way they should have always been valued. These single cards, they take thousands and thousands of dollars worth of packs when you take in the amount of how long it takes to hit them. A lot of these cards are 1 out of 300, 1 out of 500, 1 out of 800, 1 out of 1,500 packs. When you take into account the amount of money you would have to spend on packs on average to pull one of these cards, I think all the cards were undervalued always. And it's nice to see some of the cards being valued properly at, when people start to think about, well, how much would it cost for me to actually try to pull this card? Maybe it is worth it to pay $80, $100, $200, $300 for this single, because it still makes sense when you take into account the cost of actually obtaining that card otherwise. And so seeing all these alt arts, trainer galleries start to stagnate, start to hold their patterns over multiple months, and people keep paying them, seeing the special illustration rares that are no longer in the news cycle, no one talks about anymore, still continue to rise, see massive gains, seeing some of these other forgotten Charizards do very well, it's still a very bullish indicator of the hobby. It shows that this hobby isn't ran by manipulation and buyouts and scams and news cycles and PokeTubers and all this stuff. It shows that, all those things help. They do play a factor. That's why we do see massive, runs on certain cards, and you had the buyouts and manipulations and stuff. But it shows that even after all that stuff's over, a lot of these cards still find very real value, and they hold that value over time. A lot of these Sword and Shield sets now are 3, 4, going on 5 years old here soon. And people are still going back and buying them, even though they're way out of the limelight, way out of being open every stream and all of our YouTube and all the pack break channels. And they're no longer talked about every day. So that's kind of my take on everything, guys. I'm not saying none of these won't come down in the future. If we do have a market downturn, everything will come down a bit. But it does tell you that it's becoming more of a safer time to buy them if you want them for your collection. You no longer have to worry about buying something and it being, 30% lower the next day like some of these other cards are and some of these newer cards are. So that's all I got. I hope the video helped. Subscribe if you're not. I'll be back here in a new one soon. I am.